Welcome to this short summary of sociology as a science. So this is part of the theory and methods topic for AQA sociology, focusing on what we'd cover in year 2. So we're going to look at sociology as a science. So just to begin with, we need to figure out what science is. So although sociology is often referred to as a social science, this is very different to what we'd kind of call the natural sciences, like chemistry, biology, and physics. So the natural traditional sciences have 5 key ideas. So the most of the aims of these research is to cover laws, discover cause and effect. It aims to base its laws on objective facts. So it uses this process called verification to check information is accurate, correct, often because it's testable. It's designed to obtain facts and must examine actual observable phenomena, which is known as empiricism. And it also aims to be value-free. Now, can sociology be a science? Now, positivists would say yes. Durkheim, being one of these positivists, studied suicide. He highlighted how sociology could be scientific, and this was something that was possible and desirable. Positivists tend to use methods that allow maximum objectivity and detachment. So they prefer quantitative methods like experiments, questionnaires, and structured interviews. A key assumption behind positivism as a theory and as an approach is that the individual is constrained by social forces. So we are like puppets, we lack autonomy. Sociology is the study of social facts, which can be measured objectively. Sociology should aim to discover cause and effect for relationships, so the laws which govern human behaviour. And we should use quantitative methods to create reliable data. So can sociology be a science? Now, interpretivists would say the opposite is no, it can't be a science. They argue that, you can't study human beings in the same way as the natural sciences. People have free will, have choice, and we are therefore not puppets controlled by external social factors. So the main thing we mentioned before is autonomy. So we have autonomy. We construct the world through our meanings, feelings, and obviously to understand this, interpretivists say we need to be using methods like, qualitative methods, interviews, observations to gain verstehen and validity. That's the best way we can understand society. We can't use positivist approaches. Now, as a side note to both these debates, as whether sociology is a science or isn't a science, we also need to think about science as a topic area and think about how scientific is science. So many sociologists have actually questioned this idealized view of science. The objective view of science is difficult to achieve, especially when the subject matter is not human. So one of the things we know about science is that it is open to manipulation, falsification, and also human error. So some of the things to be aware of is that scientists are human beings, so they have values and they make assumptions. Scientists can carry out their work with organizations that might provide economic or social support or even funding. So again, who scientists choose will affect their research, because again, they want funding for their projects. Scientists have to consider their social standing and reputation. So again, they don't want to present information that look inaccurate. They may stick with more established theories and practices, and they may not want to rock the boat, as their career could be affected by this. So even science as a topic is open to changes and influences that could remove those values of objectivity and value freedom that we tend to associate with science. Now, Popper talks about how scientific is science. So again, continuing this debate. Now, Popper says that the methods of the natural sciences could be applied to social sciences, identify a true science or give it the true science status. And he says that sociology should follow the deductive method rather than the inductive. So deductive means obviously you conduct a study and therefore you start with the hypothesis, and then you conduct your study to test your hypothesis. So you're starting with, this is my idea, this is the test, have I proven it? Sociology is a little bit more inductive, so it will conduct the study and then it will come up with a theory afterwards. So Popper says that until sociology changes its approach and takes on this hypothetico deductive method, so essentially come up with a hypothesis and then test it method, sociology cannot be considered a science. Scientists shouldn't try to find evidence to prove their theory. They should also be trying to disprove and falsify a theory. And this again is a process of falsification. So a lot of sociology involves presenting an idea or doing some research, coming up with a theory. And the big question is, can people prove it wrong? One of the flaws of sociology that kind of detached from this, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, is the fact there are so many different theories all criticizing each other's research. It kind of highlights lots of falsification, which kind of often then proves or disproves a theory or idea. So some of the other things we need to think about is Kuhn. Now, Kuhn talks about science and has a particular set of ideas that apply to this debate. So Kuhn believes that science operates within this thing called a paradigm, and this is a framework, a set of ideas, a concept, or a particular discipline. And within a paradigm, all individuals, in this case all scientists, share the same ideas, the same beliefs, the same practices, because they are established as the most accurate or the correct way of doing it. So when scientists work, they're working within a paradigm. They accept all the other research that comes before them. They uncritically accept, principles like Earth being the center of, the sun being the center of the solar system, gravity. These principles that are unquestionable and accepted by all. And then again, all scientists will work within that paradigm, within that framework. So some examples of paradigms that we have is the idea that the Earth is flat. That has been disproven by science. The world is round. The Super Hadron Collider at CERN, again, the speed in which they found, we always sort of talk about the idea about speed of light being the fastest movement of energies. And again, that found faster movements. So again, it's disproven ideas that were put forward. And the idea being that once a paradigm has shifted, there's been a paradigm shift or a paradigm change, then all the information that comes before that is rewritten and updated. This is what we call a scientific revolution. So once a paradigm is established, people work within that framework. Once the paradigm is updated or amended, all the existing research, all the existing ideas have to be reformatted, rechanged and updated based on the update. Now, one of the big things about sociology that means it's pre-paradigmatic, it doesn't work within paradigms, it's because there's lots of competing ideas. There's no universally accepted or agreed upon set of ideas within sociology. That makes it pre-paradigmatic, which means it cannot be used in sort of the same sense of having paradigms and having those scientific principles applied. So lastly, you have the changing views of science. So some of the different views that have come up, realism has emerged and talked about how open systems like human behavior can be studied using a closed system like science. So the idea being that it's kind of that bridging the gap between the positivist and the interpretivist, saying that, if we're looking for cause and effect, so we can look at an open group of people like human beings and apply the cause and effect principle. They tend to look at examples like capitalism, which provides the underlying structures that causes the effects of behavior. Feminist methodology, also we've talked about before, focused on the idea that science is mainstream, focuses on men, and feminist methodology tends to favour more interpretivist, more qualitative data, in which the women, often being the subjects of the research, are empowered and participating in a study in a collaborative way rather than being the subject of investigation. Postmodernists see science as just another meta-narrative. So again, looking at the idea of the librarian, the idea of constructing and collecting data. So science is just another part of a meta-narrative claiming a monopoly of the truth. And the big argument from postmodernism is that there is no single truth. And our last conclusion. So positivists argue that sociology can be a science. Interpretivists argue that it cannot be a science. Realists believe that a lot of sociology can be seen in a scientific way, depending on how you define sciences. Feminist and postmodern methodologies, again, emphasize that things have changed. They would disagree with sociology being a science, or they disagree with the principles of science. And we can also throw in this debate about how scientific is science. And there we have it. So sociology is science in a quick summary there. Hope you've enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.